Hi, everybody. Welcome to this gathering on seasonal medicine for spring. So I'd like to begin with a few breaths to bring us all present. So find, however you're sitting, take a moment to find your spine, the trunk of your body. If your feet are on the ground, take a moment to connect with the soles of the feet and your energetic roots. Just a few gentle breaths to welcome you, to welcome your whole self to this conversation, this gathering. So important to send our roots deep in the springtime. Then we can place one hand on our heart and just maybe even give a gentle pressure or massage to the heart. Taking a gentle breath into the center of the chest. And exhale, intentionally releasing any tension in the body, the mind. And as best we can, bringing ourselves present, just as you are. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that this land that I am on here, where my practice full moon acupuncture and apothecary is in Baltimore City. I also live in this neighborhood. This land is stolen land. And this land was built upon by the labor of stolen bodies. So may we all take a moment together to recognize these realities. The nature of the realities of colonization and white supremacy. And at the same time, may we also hold the remembrance and the knowing that our earth is a living, breathing, dynamic, resilient, intelligent, vastly intelligent being. And may we all together help restore the earth so that she may continue to be a source of medicine and water for all people. Thank you. So in many ways, when I speak about seasonal medicine or seasonal living, I could also talk about that as earth medicine. So what is seasonal medicine? Seasonal medicine, for me, and the perspective that I teach from, implies that we have a deep and kindred connection with the natural world. We are one with the energetic movements, the cycles and the seasons. Yes, they happen out there. And from an ancient perspective, from a Chinese medical perspective, they also happen within our bodies. And I will also say something I've really been thinking about and dreaming about and cultivating is that this is understood already, that there is a beautiful reciprocity, right, between our human being and the larger world. And that our souls, our human souls, long to be in deep communion with nature. And on the other side of that, the natural world, I will say, longs or needs. There is a necessity to be in sacred communion with the human beings also. Seasonal medicine, seasonal living. And again, I teach from a a 5-element perspective, which is one paradigm of Chinese medicine. 5 elements, also known as 5 phases. And by 5 phases, that means the 5 energetic movements of the universe, or of the cosmos. So I'll share some slides with you in a few moments for those of us who are visual learners. But all of this is by way of introduction. And speaking of introductions, I will introduce myself in case I do not know you yet. I am Martha Rogers, and I am the Chief Creative Officer for Full Moon Acupuncture and Apothecary. And so our physical shop is here in the Hamden neighborhood of Baltimore. And we have our limitless virtual realms. And so I'm a writer, I am also a practitioner of Chinese medicine, and I am a gatherer. And right now my passion and everything about me is on teaching seasonal medicine. And perhaps a better, more appropriate word is guiding. Because guess what? You already know all of this. It lives in you. So if you take one thing away, I want it to be that the remembrance, the knowing of how intelligent your body is, in the same way that the earth is intelligent with her cycles and rhythms, the cosmos, the turnings of the moon, all happening within you. It's part of our ancestral inheritance. It's part of our DNA. The ancients and their knowing lives in us. But our modern lives, at best, distract us, and at worst, really keep us so disconnected from our own sacred knowing and our own sacred connection to the other. I have a wobbly table, so when I put my elbows down, I wobble. All right, so let us begin. Let us begin on spring. I'm gonna boop over here to share my screen. Alrighty, friends. Oh, where did I go? This is my email. Let's see. Let's go back. Bear with, thank you. Here we go. A few things I may not have said, just to continue our layering. So I tend to teach in layers, and sometimes that can be very repetitive. And my hope is that you hear it maybe enough, or you hear it in a way that it soaks into the deeper layers of your being. So as we move in more deeply into our individual and as well as our collective understanding of seasonal living or seasonal medicine, in that is the knowing that each season offers us life-giving medicine, life-giving practices. These terms also imply an intrinsic relationship with the natural world, our interconnectedness, and a reciprocity. And this is what I said a few moments ago. The natural world, again, longs might not be the right word, but we need one another, right? There is an interdependence, and our souls long to be in that sacred communion. Okie doke. So as I said, I'll be sharing from a 5-element or 5-phase perspective, and that is known as the wuxing. And the 2 words that are really important for this conversation and for moving forward in your own journey, your own deepening into living in accord with nature's rhythms, are remembrance. And I said that a few moments ago. It's already within you. It's simply a reawakening, a remembering of this intelligence and wisdom that you carry. And then the second term, super important, is resonance. So You may already be familiar with the term resonance, and resonance is, right? It's about energy and vibration. Resonance. The ancients were so keen in their capacity to observe the patterns of the natural world, the patterns of the heavens. Their very lives depended on it. And so it's from them, sometimes referred to as ancient seers or ancient sages, divining with the natural world, with the cosmos, that we receive the 5 elements or the 5 energetic phases. All right. So I'm going to come here first, and I'll go back in just a second to the whooshing, the 5 phases. So yes, we're here to talk about spring and to learn more. How can I honor spring more fully in my body and in nature? And so that relates to the wood element, the green circle, right? And so each season has a corresponding element. So the season of spring relates to the wood element. And just quickly, the fire element relates to summer. Earth is late summer. Metal is the autumn. Water is winter. Now we must remember that this is a generative cycle. So we say that water gives birth to wood, or we could say winter gives birth to spring. Night gives birth to day. So when we begin to talk about spring, we cannot talk about spring without considering winter, because winter is the power behind the rising. How we have nourished ourselves in winter, the season of dormancy, the season of stillness, will absolutely influence the rising, the exuberance, and the propulsion of spring. So my question that I'm asking myself this year, and I'm putting out there to you all, is how can I walk into spring in a way that honors winter, in a way that keeps me connected to my roots, to the darkness and to mystery, to wisdom? So something to posit. All right. So these are the 5 phases, 5 energetic movements. If you want to learn more about any of this, please join me for Renewal, the spring session. I will be going into more detail and just sharing more in detail. So right now it's just like an overview, and I'm asking you to sort of just go with it. Okay, so just to go with it. Specific to, so let's turn the page. Oh gosh, everybody, this is so beautiful. Let's just take a moment and look at this beautiful character for spring. Also the wood element. It's really the character for wood. So what we see here is we have this vertical line, and that vertical line represents the trunk of the tree. So in our bodies, that's our spine, right? Our uprightness. The horizontal line, I just love this so much. The horizontal line represents the earth. So when we look at the top of this character, what is above the earth, it is a fraction, or it's a third of what we see happening below the earth. So what that means, how we can understand that, is what I was saying a few moments ago. Underneath of the earth, that would represent winter. In Chinese medicine, that is the kidneys, the adrenals. And that, what we can't see, the darkness, the mystery, the yin, the winter, that is what is the engine for what pushes through the soil. So these things excite me. All right, so that is our character for the wood element. We have roots and we have this trunk that at some point, when the light starts to grow, when the temperatures start to rise, instinctually knows to press through the soil. Another thing I want you to remember and to carry away with you is that growth is intrinsic to our human being, to our human self. We, just like the plants, are designed for growth. And it's essential that we allow our growth to unfold. Sometimes that's hard for me. And I'll talk more about that. Okay? So we are all growing. We are all growing. Always, until we are not. All right. So this is our character. Keep that character in mind as you move into spring. Ask yourself, how are my roots? Am I rooted deeply? Are my roots nourished? Do they have enough minerals? Do my kidneys need some rest? Okay. So let's all take a big stretch, because in Chinese medicine, the wood element governs the sinews and the tendons, comes up through the throat. So yawn, make a sound. Ah. Keep the energy moving. You've got to keep the energy moving. The energy of spring is movement. Okie doke. So the wood element correspondences. Remember, wood is our green circle from a few slides back. It rises out of water, out of winter. And I'm going to say this, wood, the wood element, the spring, is what feeds the fire element, is what feeds the summer. And what is summer? But summer in this paradigm is the full expression, the full blossoming, the fruiting of one's heart. So we nourish ourselves, we restore in winter. In spring, we push through the soil and we keep growing towards the light so that in summer we may offer the world the full fruiting of our heart. So let's get back to spring. All right. So in spring, our organ systems are the liver and the gallbladder. Liver is the yin pair, the yin of the pair. Gallbladder is yang. So each element has a yin and a yang pair. Energetic movement for springtime is up and out. What are all the plants doing? Up and out. That is the energy of spring in our own bodies. In Chinese medicine, they would not say that the liver is like spring. They would say the liver is spring, meaning the energetic matrix, the resonance of springtime is the same as the energetic matrix of your liver, of the liver organ system. Okie dokes. All right. So we're going to do some shouting. So the sound that goes with springtime is shout. Comes up through the throat. It's shouting. It is that up and out movement. It's like the sound of the geese when they bark or they call. That is that same energy. It's that same propulsion to life, to express. This is what spring is. It is the propulsion to express life. So wood element governs tendons, sinews, and nerves. The emotion is anger, anger. So anger is the translation of the character. And again, we're thinking about this in terms of energy, in terms of matrix. So in our bodies, what does the emotion of anger do? It rises, it wants to express, right? It's powerful. It is an energetic movement. That is the same thing that is happening in the natural world right now. Guess what happens when we try to push down that powerful propulsion of spring or anger or shout in our bodies? Yeah, it's not good. It can over time, it will over time create what's called liver qi stagnation, depression, which often correlates, although not always, correlates with the Western diagnoses of depression and or anxiety, right? Because if you have an exuberance, I'll say, an exuberance of energy that wants to express in a very determined, particular way, and it meets an obstacle and it's unable to rise, whether that's a societal obstacle, self-imposed, another class on that, that's going to create heat. It's just going to build heat because it's trying to rise, trying to rise, trying to rise. All right, I'm not going to go into that anymore. Anyways, trust me on this one. Emotion is anger. The climatic factor is wind. Wind. So wind is very dynamic. We say that wind is the agent of change. So when the winds come, it propels us to act, propels us towards change. Outside, we know that we have the Ides of March. It's a windy time. Here comes my scarf. Do not, this is your third absolute takeaway. First one is remembering you carry the medicine. Second one is that you have roots. And the third one is to cover your neck so that you do not have a wind invasion. Wind enters at DO 14, GV 14 on the back of the neck. Wear your scarf. The sensory orifice that correlates or corresponds to the wood element, the liver and the gallbladder, are the eyes. Spring is all about vision, because how do we push up? Like, how do we channel that determination? First, we must have a vision of where we want to go. That is the psychospiritual gift of the liver, is holding one's vision that is in service of your heart. Yes, in Chinese medicine, the organs are so much more than their physiological functioning. So vision, literal and metaphoric, figurative, has everything to do with eyes, with liver, with spring, with the wood element. Spring is very much about having a vision for one's life. And then the gallbladder has the command of making wise decisions in accord with that vision. It's so cool. When you start to learn this, it's really cool. It excites me. Okay, I'm feeling woody. All right, let's keep going. So the external manifestation are nails. You can look at your nails, toenails, yellow, fungus, liver disharmony, probably some, you might want to do a very gentle liver cleanse, and tears. Tears are another, bile. Bile and tears are fluids related to this element. The taste is sour. So what does that mean? Again, sour is, there are 5 flavors that correspond to the 5 elements. The sour taste helps to, in moderation, right? Like biggest edict in Chinese medicine is all things in moderation. And that absolutely applies to our emotional life. Sour taste helps to bring harmony and balance to the liver and the gallbladder. And the time of day is 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. 11 p.m., 3 a.m. I'm going to tell you about the Chinese clock. But if you want to know more about the Chinese clock is so fun. So you can look it up, you can do Googles, look for it, or you can join me for the spring session of Renewal. Here's a quick and fast, each organ system governs a 2-hour window each day. So within every 24 cycle, there's a 2-hour window. The window for the liver is 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And that is, this 2-hour window on the Chinese clock is when that organ system, I'll say, is at its height. The gallbladder is 1 to 3 a.m. So there's a couple ways you can use this as a reflective tool to ask, like, one thing that's super important Here's your fourth takeaway. Fourth takeaway is be in bed by 11 p.m. Why? Because the liver needs to be horizontal in order to properly cleanse and store the blood. Get in bed by 11 p.m. Let your liver do its thing when it has the most energy. Gallbladder is 1 to 3 a.m. Other way we can think of this, like, are you someone who always or often or occasionally wakes up like 1 a.m., 2 a.m.? This you could ask yourself, like, what is happening? It's probably not physical, because the liver always, and I'll talk more about this in a moment, and I feel pretty confident saying always, has an emotional connection to the emotion of frustration, resentment, or anger. So how are you processing your emotions? How do you need to process your emotions in order to create more free flow in body and mind? The liver's job, sorry, I just had to do a time check. So we can ask ourselves, is there liver congestion? Is there liver depletion when we are waking between those hours, between 11 and 3 a.m., or having trouble falling asleep? Okay. Stay with me a little longer. And I should have said this earlier, but I know this is a ton of content, but listen to it in small bits, listen to it multiple times, let it wash over you. And you can always and please ask me questions, ask me clarifications. If I haven't mentioned it, I love talking about it. And when I get questions, it helps me to become more clear in myself. And by the way, clarity is a gift of the spring element, the wood element. All right, so the liver holds the office of the general of the armed forces, assessment of circumstances, and conception of plans stem from it. So that is a translation from the Neijing Suwen chapter, I want to say 2, but it could be chapter 8. So sorry, guys. Gallbladder. So again, they are a pair. They are a pair that comes under the wood element, which relates to spring, which is about that up and out energy. Gallbladder is responsible for what is just and exact. Determination and decision stem from it. There's actually a pattern of disharmony in Chinese medicine called a timid gallbladder. We can think of that as like a wallflower, someone who doesn't take up their space. And there's no judgment. I certainly at times am a timid gallbladder, and I love that about myself. And other times I am the tiger. But all of this to say that, back to the psycho-spiritual influences of these organ systems. The liver holds the vision. It is like the general of our body mind. And the gallbladder is the commander, and it is about making decisions. If we think very physiologically, the gallbladder is constantly having to decide when and how much bile to release in order to digest and process fats properly. So that's a very physiological way that the gallbladder is always having to be making decisions, needing to be making decisions. Faculties of the wood element in harmony are clarity, wise judgment, foresight. So again, vision, right? We have to have that plan before we know where we're going, before the gallbladder can make those wise decisions. Decisiveness. The biological functioning is filling. So let me back up, and I apologize. The primary, so the liver is very unique. All of the organ systems are unique. The liver has this unique responsibility that relates to blood and also to qi. So blood is a yin substance. All of our substances are precious in Chinese medicine. Blood, sweat, tears, jianye, whole other class. Again, just know that your blood is absolutely a precious fluid, and it is more than the physical red substrate. It houses consciousness, and it also stores our emotions. So blood, so liver has this relationship with blood. The liver stores blood, and it also moves blood, which is why the liver is indicated with most, if not all, menstrual dysregulation, disharmony, because it has the job of storing and moving blood, and that includes menstrual blood. The liver also, so again, that's its relationship with blood, but it can't do that without proper qi. So the qi is what actually, the qi of the liver is what is able to move the blood. So coming back down to biological functions, the liver has this function of filling. So I mentioned that it governs sinews and tendons. So when we need blood to rush to our muscles, our tendons and ligaments, the liver needs to have one, enough blood to do that, and two, maybe even one, first, the qi to propel that blood to the tendons and the sinews. And that's what the filling means. Arousal, definitely in terms of both male and female arousal. And I would say more specifically for male erection, the liver channel is the only channel that enters the male genitalia. So genitals. So arousal, very much related to the liver blood, and the liver qi. So it's the blood that actually fills and creates the erection. Next word is expansion, and then acceleration. The acceleration, again, has to do with its capacity to move the qi and also move our emotions. So I mentioned the blood stores the emotions. The qi is what moves it. So when our blood is moving, when our qi is moving freely in our body, mind, our emotions are also moving freely in the body, mind. That's why movement, let's get to the next page, everybody. Movement is so important for keeping harmony in the spring. This is not what I thought the next slide was going to be, but we're going to read it. From a classical perspective, so like as a practitioner, as a clinician, when someone has a disharmony of the wood element, when there is an imbalance in the liver, gallbladder, and especially the liver, rather than going directly to the liver and treating the liver, we treat the kidneys. Why? Because again, the kidneys, we say, are the mother of the liver. So the health of the liver is predicated on the health and the strength and the vitality of our kidneys, of our adrenals. Everything is connected. Winter gives birth to spring, night gives birth to day. If you don't rest well for many nights, you'll begin to feel it. Our rising won't be as bright, as strong. Right, now let's see if the next slide is what I want. Yes, no, yes. All right, so a few things to avoid, a few things to steer clear of, pretty much all year round, but especially in the spring. Greasy foods, rancid oils, and rancid nuts. Why? Because of the gallbladder's function of having to produce bile to assimilate and break down fats. So the gallbladder is asked a lot of. So that way, by lightening our diet, especially as we move into spring, really can be helpful to give the gallbladder a reprieve. Spicy foods. So spicy foods, minimize them, minimize. All right, alcohol in all caps. Why? Because it's heating and it's drying, and we do not want to create that climate in the liver. Because the liver stores and moves the blood. Blood is a yin substance. Blood is meant to be nourishing, moistening, and cooling. That is its function in our body mind. So when the liver gets hot and dry, it will then deplete the yin, it will deplete the moistening, it will dry up the blood of the liver. We don't want that. Cannabis. So cannabis, this also could be a whole other class that I am not equipped to teach, but cannabis is medicine, and it is medicine that acts directly on the liver. So once upon a time, there was a very negative stereotype, and I'm aware what I'm saying, of like a couch potato stoner. And from a Chinese medical perspective, what happens, right? Quick review, the energy of the liver is the energy of spring. So the energy of the liver wants to rise. It wants to move up and out. The liver holds the vision for life. So if we are constantly or chronically using cannabis, especially smoking it, and that's a whole other thing in terms of how it affects the yin of the lungs, it will be sedating that natural impulse, that natural propulsion for movement of the liver. And so over time, if we're constantly sedating it, it's like the liver becomes flaccid, right? The energy of the liver is not able to rise and to be sustained in the rising. And then avoid opiates and amphetamines. The liver is processing and cleansing our blood. And because I mentioned, because of the nature of blood and that it stores our emotions, the liver is always processing our emotions as well. Okay, things to cultivate. The art of bamboo. So yes, bamboo is an invasive, and that's a whole other class and term that's negative, but we can learn a lot from bamboo. So go to a little bamboo area near you. There's plenty in Wyman Park if you're here in Baltimore, and the bamboo is rooted and it moves with the winds, right? So that shows us the gift of being well rooted and flexible, and we're able to move with the winds of life, to bend but not to break. And so again, that does have a lot to do with liver blood and liver yin. So cultivate the art of flexibility, knowing how to move around the perception of obstacles. That's also a gallbladder quality and gift. Remember the eyes, the perception of an obstacle, and how do we move around it? Compassion. We say in Chinese medicine that the virtue of a healthy wood element is benevolence. And I take that to mean compassion. Compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, compassion for our own timing, the timing of our individual and exquisite growth and unfolding. The other thing I'll say about bamboo is when you look at it, right, it has those nodes, right? It has like those nodes or notches. And in Chinese medicine, that relates to the concept of time. So again, the bamboo teaches us how to trust the timing of our unfolding. Wise judgment. Practice and first just notice if this is an area of opportunity, practicing being more decisive, practicing what that might mean or feel like to exercise wise judgment in your life. And exercising wise judgment based on who you are now in this season of your life, with whatever circumstances are happening in your life. The greatest gift of aging, or the saying that's associated to aging in Chinese medicine, is that as we age, we grow in wisdom. And part of that wisdom is self-knowing, knowing like, what is my ancestral inheritance? Did I come into this world receiving a huge endowment of chi? Am I someone who is highly sensitive and really needs to tend myself sweetly and give myself more winter, even in the height of summer? You know, so part of this whole process of seasonal medicine is coming to understand how the seasons live in you, knowing that there's always support, but also the piece of compassion, wisdom, knowing thyself, and moving forward from that place of integration and care and kindness, trusting the unfolding. And I just wrote there in italics, sun and moon, because it's beautiful. And sun and moon is the translation of a point on the abdomen in the 7th intercostal space. It is on the gallbladder channel, and it is the point that goes directly to the gallbladder. There are certain points that treat the channel, the energetic channel, and then points that actually treat the physiological organ system. So this point, sun and moon, gallbladder 24, is about helping us remember in such a deep, deep way of balance, helping us remember balance, remember our own cycles and rhythms, trusting in that, trusting in our own cycles and rhythms. There's much more to it, but I'll just say that for now. What to draw near. So I mentioned a few screens back that each element has a signature flavor or taste that helps to bring harmony. So I mentioned that the sour flavor is that taste that helps to bring harmony to the wood element, to liver and gallbladder. So one thing we can do, if you're not already, is to begin the day with a nice sized jar or glass of warm lemon water or warm water with a generous teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in it. And that helps to, like, what I'll say, massage the liver, helps it in its cleansing process, helps to move any heaviness or congestion from a prior night's meal. And it also begins the process of peristalsis. So it's a lovely gift. It also tastes really lovely. It brings on that sense of clarity. So when we think, or hopefully as you now think about the liver, you'll be thinking maybe about liver blood and chi and how to keep that harmony, how to keep things moving. And specific to liver blood, we want to really think about minerals. Am I getting enough minerals, enough nutrient-dense foods that are easily assimilable in order to have the building blocks to create blood? So this is, again, a very big conversation, but some very simple things we can begin to do is be mindful, even as the temperature shifts, to still be keeping the bulk of your food warm or cooked. And that is especially so, that is absolutely especially so if you are already a being that tends toward depletion, that tends towards memory problems. Blood, like I said, stores the consciousness. So especially important if you are already someone, oh, here it is, who tends towards being cold, being dry, being tired a lot. We want to keep that support for the spleen and stomach by feeding warming foods. And by that, I mean like cooked things, root vegetables, squashes, beets. Yes, salads are okay, but sprinkle those in. Sprinkle sprouts on top of your soups and stews. Have teas, stinging nettles teas all day long. If you are someone who tends towards dryness, You want to add like a moistening herb to your nettles, because for some people, nettles can be slightly drying. So something like violet would be lovely to add to nettles, a nettles tea. If you know about foraging, chickweed, everything that starts to grow in the spring, chickweed, dandelion root, well, dandelion root, but what I actually meant to say was dandelion leaf. So great, saute it, love it, chickweed all day long. Nettles are beautiful because they are like giving a mineral-rich bath to your kidneys. And remember, kidneys is mommy to liver. So when we feed and nourish the kidneys, it helps to nourish and tonify the liver. Take care of mommy, and mommy takes care of the baby, the liver. Milk thistle is also another, it is nutritive, but I think of it more in the spring as like something to bring in as a gentle cleanser. So I'm not a proponent of extreme detoxes or fasts or anything like that. I really come from a perspective of how do we nourish ourselves in each season. And that's very individual, right? It has to be. And then in all caps, the gold star winner is milky oats. Milky oats, everybody. They are such a beautiful nervine, such a gift from the plant world to our beings, helps regulate the nervous system. I cannot say enough wonderful things about the gift that milky oats is to all of us, especially in times where we're feeling burnt out, depleted, adrenal exhaustion, or we're just feeling frazzled. Our nerve endings are feeling frazzled. So that's milky oats. So definitely circle that in. I have to begin to wrap up. I'm going to send you all this. Lastly, I guess on top of what I've mentioned, coming back to how do we honor the energetics of spring, knowing that it has this intrinsic capacity, connection to our emotional life, keeping the flow of our emotions, our chi, and our blood moving. Journaling, morning pages, just stream of consciousness, get it out, say the words, do the things. If you're better, like using a keyboard, boom, 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 and then delete that email. Make sure you address it to yourself so it doesn't go to someone accidentally. But that can be super helpful. Get those emotions out, type. Move. Your diaphragm is that muscle that sits below the lungs and just above the liver. So as we move the diaphragm, it again massages the liver, helps the chi and the blood to flow. Really important. And I am, again, not someone who's describing that, or saying the prescription is to go out and train for a marathon. Maybe, but maybe not. I'm definitely more of the maybe not side at this stage of my life. But like simple movements, play, twisting's great for liver and gallbladder. Shouting, use your voice. Go out in the woods, talk, be in your car, sing. Keep that channel open and flowing. Jump and play. Arrhythmic movements. So staccato movements, put on some good music. Let your sinews, right? So think of it as like sinews and tendons rather than the flesh of the muscles. Flesh of the muscles is more related to spleen and stomach. So here's some ideas you can look at: tennis, pickleball, badminton. You're boom, boom, getting that anger energy out. And anger energy is the energy of spring. Swift walking. Be creative, be playful, doodle. Doodling is so good for the liver. Just doodle, draw, be a child again. The season of spring, in terms of the life cycle, corresponds with our youth, a time of great possibility, exuberant energy, much potential. So allow yourself to be childlike in the spring. And at the same time, challenge yourself. The wood likes a challenge. It likes to remember it can rise to meet and sustain and carry out a challenge. This is a very wood gesture. Okay, so That's not part of this class. No, nor is that. All right, friends, I think we've come to the end. We've covered a ton of territory. So small bites, you can look at these. Please consider joining me for Renewal, the spring session. We're going to have fun. We're going to go into this a little more, and we're going to be in community. We meet each Tuesday night for a class for 5 weeks. We begin on March 21st, which is the spring equinox, and we end on April 18th. March 21st is a new moon, April 18th is a new moon, so we'll be together for one complete lunation. Very special program. Why? Because it allows you to re-enter and reconnect with the sacred rhythms of your body and with the larger world. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And like I said, email me, text me, Instagram me. Oh yeah, if you don't follow Full Moon on Instagram, please do. Full Moon Acupuncture. Yeah, at Full Moon Acupuncture, that's what it is. Happy spring, happy rising, and also happy resting. Happy being gentle with yourself and being in awe of your unfolding and your growth. Grateful for you. We're all in this together. Please remember that. Bye-bye.